experience across IT, SAS, telecommunications, consulting, enterprise transformation initiatives. He is certified in PMP, ISO standards, Six Sigma, ITL, SOC, PCI, DSS, lean management, process improvement. Darko's professional focus combines strategic project leadership with sustainability, governance, and operational efficiency, helping organizations balance delivery performance, business objectives, and long-term organizational sustainability. He's also actively engaged with PMI chapters and also the PMO governance, sustainable project delivery, and modern transformation.
You are on mute. We cannot hear you anymore.
Oh,
yeah, you're muted.
sorry. I think it was because Răzvan muted everybody and including myself. So I will rewind. I think you heard me speaking about Darko and his experience. You heard that part? Yes. And today he will speak about balancing AI-driven transformation and sustainable delivery. And this presentation is focusing on accelerating AI adoption and digital transformation without creating delivery instability, organizational fatigue, or unsustainable operational complexity. Also, the presentation will explore the balance between innovation, speed, governance, organizational resilience, and human capacity to absorb continuous change. So without further ado, please, Darko, the stage is yours. Looking forward to your presentation.
Cool. Guys, thank you so much. First of all, let's check if we are able to hear each other out.
Yes, we hear you.
Great. So Magda, thank you so much for the well-structured introduction. Thanks to PMI Chapter Romania and PMI Chapter Macedonia for having me today with you guys to just tackle one very interesting buzzword, which is always the AI in the last, I don't know, 3-4 years probably, but this year it's kind of getting very interesting. So let me first try to share the screen. I'm really sorry I'm not used to the Teams piece, but I think that I will manage it quickly. I will just need for you to tell me, are you able to see the screen? Bear with me.
Yes, we see.
Cool. Great.
Thank you.
So during the presentation, if any one of you have any question, please just go ahead and raise the hand. So probably Magda, we can unmute for questions. Other than that, on the end there are Q&A session as well, so we can discuss further on. There is no issue there. Cool. So at the point of this presentation and why I did structure on the piece of the AI is because in today's world, when we do the transformation, majority of things which are happening on the transformation perspective are related to the AI. So in today's world, when we do the transformation of the companies, what we usually do is digital transformation through the AI, right? So there are a couple of findings which I thought it was interesting just to share with all of you, and of course to hear your opinion and your experience as well at the end, just to be on the same line how this is functioning all over, right? And what are some of the lessons learned that we kind of learned going through the process of transformation. What are we going to discuss for today is the actual reality of the AI-driven transformation, the sustainability versus the organizational resilience, and what are the differences between both. What is the actual transformation fatigue and delivery challenges that all of us have, especially when we do AI transformation delivery projects? What we need to do when we do discovery and balancing between the innovation, the speed, very important piece that I will kind of tackle during this presentation, and at the end of the day, the stability. One interesting piece which many people are discussing is what is the next role of the project management, right? So what is the actual role of the project manager in the AI era? So here I would like to tackle a couple of things which we've learned so far during this type of AI transformation project, and at the end we will focusing somewhere around how the future looks like, at least from today's lens, right? Probably it will change considering that majority of things in the AI world is changing day after day. So, but we'll see how will that goes. Now, before we actually start, let's tackle a couple of introduction pieces which are important for today's world. So, organizations today usually are pressured to adopt AI rapidly, especially from the management perspective, right? There are clear instructions that AI needs to be adopted soon, and that soon usually equals as soon as possible, right? So that drives so-called acceleration of the digital transformation, which in the same time provide or expect for organization to get to the point of a better efficiency. So we are talking about 2x, 3x efficiency perspective and efficiency ROI measurements, right? Which are also a very interesting theme for discussion, right? Considering there is at this point, there are challenges when you try to measure something where there is not enough time to be implemented correctly, right? And then in the same time, because adoption needs to happen rapidly fast, right? We need to deliver even faster, but in the same time of that delivery, we need to keep the lights running, meaning keep the business running in the same time and usually with the same resources that we have in place. So usually these are the environments that I am used to seeing in the working around the globe, US market, Europe market, even Middle East market, right? So these are the challenges which are right now put in front of us when we need to solve this type of a transformation. Now, what's happening in parallel? In parallel, we are seeing after we start this type of a transformation, what we are seeing is actually delivery fatigue. This is very interesting term, delivery fatigue, right? Why? Because in the same time, we have parallel initiatives in different departments, right? Different departments are actually targeting different tools for more or less similar activities. Now, in the same time, they are doing their type of a transformational project inside the actual department. They do not have cross-functional adoption, right? Not only on the tools, but on the processes as well. They are not ready from the process perspective to get that type of a transformation across the board, right? And what we are seeing after some time working on such thing is that the people get burn downs, right? They are starting to disengage from this process, or at the end they say, hey, at this perspective, in this environment, this type of an AI adoption is not for us. We do not have the proper culture, or we didn't buy the proper tools and so forth. So we are deriving to the point of so-called delivery fatigue when the problem usually appears. So those are the two things which are important today and which are happening in majority of the companies who are trying to actually adopt or transform towards the AI. Now, the main challenge that we are seeing during this type of a project is the company wants to do it quickly, but in the same time, right, they are forgetting about the sustainability. Because doing quickly is good. I'm not saying it's not, right? But usually does not work both ways. When you do quickly, you usually affect the sustainability. Now, the point is, are we going to do quickly? right? And we are going to work on the sustainability later, which usually does not work at the end, right? Or what we're going to do is deep dive, right? Do the proper analysis, spend a little bit more time so that we are focusing more on the sustainability and less on the time which is required this to get into production. So this is a huge challenge that at least I'm seeing around, and this is something that needs to tackling. At this point, the management is not so responsive, because the main fear is, how can we stay reluctant to what's happening, right, when it's happening so fast? What that means is we need to move fast. If we want to catch the train right now, we need to move fast. And that's the slippage road that majority of the companies are actually doing. So when we discuss the reality in the form of a small roadmap, right, how does that look like? So first of all, as I've mentioned, there are a couple of parallel initiatives, different departments working in their silo, right? Considering their own tools, which will help them in the day-to-day operations, okay? And usually those tools are not correlating between departments. Now, that means if you have different silos, different tools, different perspective, there is no strategy in place. And when there is no strategy in place, that means nothing is centralized. Everything is decentralized, but for something to be decentralized, the processes need to be top-notch. Usually they're not, okay? And what is happening at this point is that the management comes in, or the leadership comes in and say, hey, it's good that we already started this process, right? But right now what we need to do is accelerate, without seeing if the organization is ready to do that. When I say organization, it's not only on the organizational part, but also on the human capital part. And what that usually results in are constant reprioritization. We're starting something, we want to fail fast model, to use fail fast model, right? And then reprioritize, and then reprioritize again, and then reprioritize again, which brings us to the previous point of the actual operational fatigue. Now, every company has something called change absorption capacity. That means how much change can that company, right, absorb over the 1 year period, 6 months period, whatever the case may be, okay? And usually when it comes to this type of an AI transformation, this is something that it's kind of fade away. No one is caring about the actual change, that we need to leave a little bit of a time, right, to change, to actually lead people to actually start using it. So we kind of learn, and then we adapt, and then we continuously improve it. No, we need to do it right away so we can catch the trend. And when we ignore this piece, right, this is also one of the very important key indicator for that type of an operational fatigue. So one of the reasons why at this stage it's not able to catch a good return on investment is because you need time for that strategy, that tool, that operational process to be put in place, so you are able to learn, you're able to make mistake, right, and you're able to correct. Otherwise, you're not able to catch the right KPIs, and if you're not able to catch the right KPIs, you're probably going to get the wrong ROI, return on investment, which usually is an indicator, right, to measure the actual economical value of what you're trying to implement. And this is also one of the biggest problem that majority of the companies are facing today. Now, when it comes to, so we discuss about the speed, and we discuss about the sustainability. Now the point is, how do we see the sustainability, right? What is the actual sustainability? So at this point, especially from the project management perspective, right, when we say sustainability, that usually means protecting the team, protecting the delivery capacity on the company level, right? organizational stability, then we need to provide day-to-day business to run as it should, so business continuity, but in the same time to ensure quality in the decision-making process, which can be a challenge, right? And it's up for the discussion, but this is the actual drivers to the correct sustainability. Now, on the other hand, when we get to the point of delivery, then when we say sustainability in the delivery system, that means long-term value creation. Okay, so project management is not only solving tasks, moving pieces around, right? That's one thing that we need to do, right? But the second piece, which is very important, is actually value delivery. So if you put that to your team as a team goal, even if you do this type of an transformation project, then you are on the good path, right, to the good sustainability on the long run. Now, when we discuss sustainability, we also need to have into consideration the actual cadence of delivery, and that cadence needs to be fixed. What that means is we need to have a cadence of value, not only creation but value delivery as well. And in the same time, we need to balance between what is the capacity that we have, right, versus what is on our plate, or what are the requirements for us to deliver. And in the same time, to be aware in which type of environment we are working on. Is the environment predictable? Is it not predictable? So we need to learn more. So we need to use fail first, fail fast. Okay. So with that perspective, when we take all of these into consideration, we can define what actually sustainability for majority of companies means. Now, AI is here, right? And that's the reality. Now, AI, it's actually accelerating the process of transformation. That's true as well. And we cannot say that that's not happening, because in reality, that is something which is happening. But in the same time, what can AI do? From the project management perspective, I mean, it can do a lot of stuff, but from the project management perspective, what we can best or find the best usage of AI is in the project reporting, risk assessment, documentation, automation of some of the processes, right? Finding the better way to do the workflows and to be more efficient during the workflow automation. Then we need to use for data analysis, for doing the reporting and report representation in front of the management, in front of the stakeholders, leadership, whatever the case may be, right? Can be used in software development, it can be used in testing, and so forth. One thing which is important to be mentioned is support during the process of decision making. So at this point, there are many questions, even in the past, like, is AI going to change, or is AI going to replace the project management or some leadership structures or some management structures and so forth? Now, taking in consideration that question, and in the same time considering what I've mentioned, where from the project management perspective, where can we actually use AI, then we say that AI in this process can, right, support, especially on the piece of the governance, on the piece of the processes, right, on the roles and responsibilities, improving the skills and so forth. But those are the potential risk that can affect the good implementation of AI tools, and at the end, AI governance that we need to work with. So AI will transform the way how we do project in the transformation field, but in the same time, we need to be aware that AI will accelerate those type of transformations, but in the same time will accelerate the complexity of the actual organization. So it's a myth that using AIs is actually simplifying in the organizational perspective, using AI in not only introducing but embedding in the actual processes that we have usually brings us to the point of accelerating and moving onwards with the complexity of the organization. So we need to have that in mind when we're discussing what type of a tool and when something need to be driven through the AI. Now, using the AI piece, there is some cost associated with it, right? We are calling them like hidden cost and driven towards uncontrolled transformation. So when we see some of the indicators on the organizations, such as you have a teams which are constantly running around the board, right? We're probably all of us seen that, right? Especially when it comes with introducing with the AI and introducing of different type of tools which are changing on a weekly basis, which are changing on the models that they are able to do, options that they are open for us to be done with those tools, the great combination, not so great combination of usage of different type of AI tools, communication between them, and so forth. So everything is bringing us to the level of higher complexity than we had before this AI. Now, imagine the team is always firefighting, going here and there, and trying to resolve this issue. And then there is like a reactive piece that needs to be solved on the other end. And now you introduce AI on top of it, right? So the atmosphere is not very good. What that brings us is, or the bottom line is, team is exhausted, right? They're declining in the quality delivery because they are exhausted. They're not able to keep up, right? They are frustrated. That frustration usually transform on the stakeholder, read on the customer side. That brings us that the employee are actually done with what they are working, and we are in the loop of high employee turnover, which is not so good, especially depending on the positions. I will agree, but it's not so good place to be. So here we are entering in the so-called leadership trap, where organization can make mistake thinking that more activity actually bring better progress, or more initiatives bring us to the better value. I would argue that. I would say that it is very dependent, and it is very context specific, context on the internal and external environment. Where do you operate? What type of a company do you operate? What is the region that you're operating in? Where is your focus? And so forth and so forth. So there are a couple of changing or moving pieces which actually defines the way how you deliver value. And in the same time, what is the value which you expect from AI to bring to you. Now, when it comes to that type of a transformation and getting to the point of the transformational fatigue, right? It is important for us to understand what is happening when the organization cannot absorb change anymore. So there is that break point where the organization, meaning the staff in the organization, is not able to take any more of the changes. So the symptoms that we're able to see are usually employees stop engaging. They are reluctant to that type of a change, saying, hey, this is not for us. This cannot work in this environment. You know what? We've delivered so much projects according to them effectively, under question mark, of course. But then they are starting to resist. They don't want to work as part of this project. They don't want to adopt, right? And that's a huge deal. That's a huge problem, right? So at that point, what the teams are trying to do is be more reactive, get to the place where we're previously working reactively and delivering are under control. We can all agree that reactive delivery usually does not mean that you are in control of stuff, right? Usually means that the work is controlling you, not vice versa. So considering all of that, right, what we need to do at that point is the organization should stop launching different type of activities, initiatives, additional projects, sub-projects, sub-initiatives, and so forth. And then to be sure that sustainable transformation, right, usually depends on successful adoption and a good operational stabilization. So what I'm seeing usually missing is that piece of a stabilization, right? And this is very important from the change perspective. It is not enough just to enter, right, to make the potential change or to introduce potential change, and then you don't leave time that change to live in practice. This is where things break down, and that's the piece of the stabilization. No one wants to go to that piece. Everyone wants to introduce the change, put that change in production tomorrow, and see the ROI 2x, 3x. Right? Usually that does not work like that. And to me, when I negotiate this type of transitions with different type of companies, smaller, larger, whatever the case is, usually this is a breaking point for the people who want to engage with the outsourced consultant, that these are the pieces that they want to see, right? But these are usually not the pieces that work, okay? Maybe sell like that, but usually does not work. Now, we've discussed about the speed and we discussed about the sustainability, but we should be aware that there should be a sweet spot. So, for example, if we are moving too slow, we usually are going to end up losing competitiveness in the particular sector that we're working in, right, or particular target market. Then there can be stagnation of the innovation, right? And there is a delusion of the actual market. So that's a potential risk. And these are the usual fears that management, right, are driven by to make a decision to do this quickly and to do this fast. Now, in the same time, if the things are going too fast, what's happening is you have instability into the delivery process, right? Usually people are burnout. There are mixed priorities. You don't know where to switch your view, right? There are problems in the governance because AI still is problematic to be correctly governed, I would say, right? And then there is like this operational chaos or operational fatigue, if you will, right? That yes, you maybe buy licenses, you maybe do the chatbots, right? You maybe have some initial L1 support for the customers, right? Or L1 support for your outsourced drivers, whatever the case is. But actually in the background, that does not provide better efficiency. The people are nervous. The people are not happy where they are. Now, the point is to find that so-called sweet spot or sustainability zone. So for the sustainability zone to happen, what we need to do first is understand what is the organizational maturity. And in the same time, what is the organizational operational capacity? Okay, so how much they are able to adapt to change and how much they are able to actually deliver. Then what is the alignment with the leadership and with the strategy on the leadership? What is the team readiness? Do we have a team that will do that, right? Or we're going to engage with in every department with different team, right? That's something that we need to understand what's on their mind. Or if they need help, how can we help to find one focus group which will actually deliver or enable this type of a project? And at the end, there should be a governance piece, right? The governance umbrella, which actually will help, especially on the enterprise level, right? And again, depending on which market you are operating, right? But there are some governance / compliance frameworks that you need to fit in. Okay, and if you do not fit in, right, you will have a compliance gap, which is not such a good thing to do. So at that perspective, you need to take into consideration everything, and then you need to prioritize so you have like a good approach from where to start. And this is the sweet spot. And this is some type of assessment that needs to be done prior introducing what you're going to do, what you're going to do next. Okay, I'm not seeing any raised hands, which means there are no questions. So let's leave the questions for discussion probably at the end of the session. Cool. Let's move on. So one very interesting topic that I usually come across is what is the future for a project management role? For me, moving around different market, different industries, different projects, different consultancy activities, and so forth, I will, quite frankly speaking, it's hard to tell. What I do know is that we need to transform. Okay, so here are a couple of views how we need to think about it. So first of all, the project management, and this is something that unfortunately I'm seeing more and more, and I don't like that, but it is what it is. Majority of people are actually seeing the project manager as a coordinator. Okay, and solely as a coordinator. So moving tasks around, doing MOMs, doing this Microsoft project or Jira or whatever tool you have, right? Communicating some of the information, moving pieces around, facilitating meetings and so forth. And this is so not true about the actual project management. And so not true in today's world when we introduce the pieces of the AI and the pieces of the automation where majority of the things that I've mentioned actually can be done by an agent. Okay, so what should we do next? So, and this is something, honestly speaking, this is something that we as a community of project managers and people who are actually involved in PMI, right? We need to kind of force, we need to kind of enable with all of the people that we are working in. Doesn't matter if there are project managers or management or leadership or C-suite or whatever the case is, right? And that's how we actually transform the view of the role called project manager. So at this point, as we move forward, right, and as we traverse towards AI, we have more uncertainty. So we as a project managers needs to go in, right, and navigate uncertainty. Then we need to connect strategy from the top management through the leadership, through the tactical level, how we can implement that transformation, right? How can strategy be transferred to the tactical level that can be understandable, right? And in the same time can be driven in the way that we actually get to the point where the strategy is fulfilled. We need to enable collaboration between, and look, not that these are not activities that was previously mentioned, or this is not something new, but now with the AI piece, it's actually accelerated. Because yes, agent can help out with the things that we've discussed previously, right? You can automate a lot of processes in here, right? But in the same time, your focus should shift towards good organizational change lead, right? How you can lead the actual organizational change. Because otherwise, when organizational change is not driven correctly, usually brings us to the point of not so well environment to work with, okay? And this is where we are able to find us. Now, in the same time, we need to balance between the priorities, okay? Not everything can be priority, especially even though if you have AI agents already installed. So at this point, our focus should be more on the strategic level and more on the value delivery level. And this is going kind of hand in hand with the PMBOK 8 and so forth. And I agree here. But the point is that we as a community need to force that, because in practice, and I would love to hear your opinion, but in practice, what I'm able to see is that we are kind of sinking down, and instead of moving towards strategy and towards value, we are moving towards MOM, XLS, configuring agents, doing stuff and fearing if tomorrow there will be work for project management. So this is something that we need to shift from the mindset perspective. And of course, then we work on the operational and on the tactical level. Now, when it comes to the human decisions and decision making, this is something that I've already covered, but I will just briefly go through. So AI cannot replace still from today's perspective. Leadership judgment, they cannot change the stakeholder trust, especially trust with the client, empathy that we have, empathy with the client when we resolve a problem, empathy with the team member when we resolve internal problem or when we facilitate resolving internal problem, making a strategic decision, okay? Then human resilience, then ethical decisions and so forth. Those are the pieces that are still on us as a humans, okay? AI can help, can support, that's for sure, but it cannot replace human being. So at that point, let's focus, right? How can we actually use AI to help us move forward instead resisting AI implementation because it will change the project management? I know it's a process, but we need to start from somewhere. So any support on this perspective will be well appreciated. Now, when it comes to the successful transformation, so successful transformation, and this is a very good point. Successful transformation is combination between using AI effectively, right, to our efficiency, and in the same time, using the human-centric approach. So in other words, using AI to help us to be more effective and to be more, to provide more efficient results. So those are, right, the points that we need to be focusing on. I discuss about, so sorry, I've mentioned about the team and the team fatigue, which actually brings us to the operational fatigue. But now, are humans matter? I would say yes, on a scale. On a scale. So at this point, sustainable teams, when we discuss on the sustainable teams are the teams which will deliver and which will provide us sustainability. But we need to be aware of the warning signs. Is the team on the place that we want to be? So continuous overtime, meeting overload with stuff which can be automated, even with the simplest tool available, right? Low engagement of people, just routing emails around or Slack communications or whatever tool that we are using, right? You have quick context switching because the same person is running 10 projects in parallel, and it is all around the board, right? All of these are the warning signs that we are more reactive than we should be. And even if we use AI, that will not resolve the reactivity problem. So first we need to focus on how to approach to resolve the reactivity problem, and then how can we use the AI tools to help us into the scaling on the company where we want to be, where, of course, we are on the place where a more effectively and more efficiently we approaching to resolving the problem. Now, to get there, first of all, we need to resolve the prioritization system, okay? We need to cut down the reactive decision making and reactive asking. Maybe it will be a problem for a startup, right? And that's fine. But I'm seeing this more and more in small towards major companies, even enterprises. Okay, so for startup, that's understandable, but for these two, kind of not. So at that perspective, this is where we need to land up. Then we need a clear ownership. We need a clear distinction who makes the decision. We need the decision transparency. Okay, and at the end, we need a psychological safety so that the people can be involved in the process and can contribute with their meaning, with their perspective, with their point of view, and so forth. So this nothing that I've discussed so far cannot be driven good if we do not have leadership support. So if there is no leadership support, then all of these is going to be very, very hard to achieve, especially not in the timeline that the leadership is expecting. So as a takeaway from the previous conversation is that organization cannot achieve sustainability and sustainable transformation when the team is exhausted, right? So that there is no team which will bring the company in the sustainability stage. And that is why I will relate with the agile transformation that we done a couple of years back, right? So the management thought that moving people into the training or engaging a consultant, we do transformation like this. It doesn't work like that. You need to change the mindset. You first need to work on the team and then you work on the processes and everything else. Not first on the processes and then work on the team. It's a wrong approach. Majority of teams are actually failing because of that. Majority of projects actually failed because of that, and so forth. So this is the same approach. This is the actual same thing, right? First, we need to grow the team for sustainability, and then we work on the strategy, how we do sustainability good. Couple of practical examples. So first of all, we need to reduce the transformation noise. We need to align between what is the AI adoption, what is the business readiness that we have today, right? We need to simplify governance. We don't need bureaucracy, right? What we need is lean structure, even on the enterprise level, lean structure, not the controls which are overwritten, right, with 5 sentences, so you're not able to understand. You don't need that. Otherwise, you will stuck with the implementation of AI. And then you need to be aware of your capacity to absorb change in the company, right? And then you need to have a system to measure what is the adoption. Otherwise, everything will fall apart. So that's why these are some of the steps and strategies that you need to consider before you actually start this process of transformation. Now, how at least on my perspective or in my lens, how the future company looks like. So first of all, they need to operate with adaptive governance. So we cannot skip adaptive, right? We need to be adaptive. Otherwise, we won't make it. Then we need to use strategically AI, okay? We need to use AI as a tool, and then we need to build the processes around human-centric pieces, right? So AI tool, human, the one who make a decision, and tools are actually helping towards the decisions that we are making. And then we always need to deliver, invest in the maintenance, the delivery discipline, and in the same time, we need to make sure that we are preparing the team for the long-term sustainability than over the short-term acceleration. So that's the actual trade that we are doing. So if we want to move forward, what we are going to do is actually first build a team that will deliver sustainability, and then work on the actual strategies and tools that we are going to build. Otherwise, usually things are falling apart. Now, to achieve all of this, first of all, we need to have leadership maturity. If we don't have leadership maturity to understand all of these steps and to see what will happen, right, then probably we will have this issue of following piece around, learning the lessons, and then try it again with a different approach. And then we need to have organizational support and resilience. We also need to have human-centric approach and transformation to make sure that the people understand that using AI tools are just as a tool. Are they going to change people in 10 years? Maybe. probably, maybe not in 10, maybe in 20 years, but we don't care about that right now. What we care right now is to drive the transformation, which is still human-centric. Then we need to have strategic prioritization. Okay, how the transformation that we are driving actually answers the strategic questions. So the point is, at this point today, we don't need to move fast just to say that we've implemented something or we are transforming in the AI world and so forth. No, we need to build sustainability over time. To build sustainability over time, previous mentioned steps needs to be taken into consideration. Otherwise, majority of things will fall apart. So guys, that was it on my perspective. Thank you so much for listening, for being part of this. And right now I am opening the Q&A session. Here are just some topics for you to think about, like a teasers, right? That maybe will engage some of you with asking questions. So please go ahead. The stage is open for discussion. Magda, sorry if I misread situation, but I think we are at that place right now.
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you so much for your presentation, Darko. It was really interesting. So questions from the audience, please. Don't be shy. You can unmute. You can ask the question now, or if you want to, you can still use the chat.
And of course, it shouldn't be a question like a question to me directly, but can be a topic for discussion, right? I love discussions because there are like many people here who has like a different experience, so we can share experience, and then we can go ahead and wrap around. It is strange not to have question when it comes to the AI.
I have some questions, Darko, just to start the conversation.
Magda, go ahead.
So I work with AI and I am researching and I'm also a speaker and yeah, I know that, and you mentioned how the profession is misunderstood or going on a path where let's say is not the best for us, and they are putting us in a box of coordinator or kind of an advanced secretary, yeah, the project management. So then how do you actually engage with your organization at more levels, not just your peers, but the overall management and even higher, what kind of strategies you have from your experience? Maybe you can give us some example on how to make this connection about changing, because this is a change management initiative as well, to see project management more relevant in their organization.
It's a great question, Magda. Unfortunately, there is no one way answer. So majority of, and this is just from my experience, and it doesn't have to be true for everything, right? But from my experience, usually the problem which appears right now is not so much on the project management level, because management or leadership right now is more focused on the technical piece, if you will, or the technical segment that they want to improve, introduce change, cut some cost in the meantime, right? Make themselves more resilient to people. So to be more tool-centric than human-centric. And that's the goal. So when we try to discuss the project management role as a whole, right, usually does not have a good hearing sound from the leadership. So at this point, even if we use different type of training session or informative engagement sessions and so forth, usually does not work. So my next step right now is introducing some hybrid role, which is usually project management enabler. And I'm using that interchangeably with AI enabler, right? Depending on the structure, where you actually here to enable people to use the tools, right? And to enable the full process of the actual change in the organization. But we are still on the level where we are not, when I say we, I mean as a project managers, we are not include so much in the strategy. Okay, so that's more on the division or functional level, right? So at this point, that's why I said we need support from the full community, like we had previously when we actually engaged with the project management to make project management something and then fall apart again. Okay, so right now we still need to work as a community to find a way how we actually going to transform the role. It will be transformed, that's for sure, right? But at the end of the day, to position ourselves as a role who will actually make a difference and deliver value. Probably we need to learn a couple of things more, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally with you with what you said. And especially you had there in one of the slides, like what are the main, let's say, factors that are not contributing to this sustainable transformation or of adopting AI, because your topic was adopting AI, but the same can be used for any transformation, you know, like when we talked about agile years ago, the same struggles there were. So this lack of strategy, lack of actually taking time and analyzing the organization, analyzing your people. This is what I see even in my work, in what activities I'm doing is missing. People are just, when I say people in this case, I mean the leadership is just jumping ahead and say, okay, from tomorrow we will use X tool, or from we need to engage with this vendor, whatever, because it will generate some profit. Let's say in the end of the day, the profitability is one of the KPIs, but then how this transformation will drag along the people is forgotten. So, or it's coming much later in the adoption of the change. So but I like your perspective that we need to work together as a community, and more, maybe the more we will talk, just like in these forums, the something will change. And anyway, it's good for us just to exchange ideas and see that we are not alone in our struggles, because we have the same challenges as far as I recognize them. I see something in the chat. Yeah, please.
No, go ahead. I wanted to mention just that it doesn't matter at the end of the day if it is a Europe market or US market, even the Middle East market, right? Pretty much similar stuff. Especially US market is a little bit more affected, right? They how can I say, they first engage with the tool, they don't have results, but they kind of lose people out, and then we say like, okay, we'll see what we are going to do with the tool, right? So it doesn't make sense, but that's why we are seeing these waves of 8,000 people off, 10,000 people off, right? Different people, it's not strictly for project management, but at the end of the day, it is happening all around.
Yeah, and you mentioned that we need to jump on the train, and I have the same recommendation for everybody. We need to jump on the train just to be one step ahead of such decisions that may impact our position in the company. And even though, let's say, we are not the AI change enablers, but we can become,
Yeah.
I see more questions in the chat, so let's see. After how much time of intense transformation implementation did you see the transformation fatigue setting in? That's a question.
Well, yeah, we are. So it is very dependent on the environment, I would say. When I say environment, I mean market, industry, people which are involved, right? So for example, there is a difference if it is a SaaS company, if it is a startup, or if it is a telco company, right? So you can see fatigue in a different way. But yeah, 12 months plus, it's usually where you are able to see that the people are exhausted. With the exclamation mark, can happen even in 6 months if they previously started and tried a couple of years and it didn't work, right? So now you are trying again, right, with similar approach, and they are pretty much exhausted from the case. So it depends on the environment, but yeah, we can say around 12 months it's more than enough to actually see the fatigue, especially when you have different prioritization over the period.
Yeah, thank you. And another question, what kind of mitigation measures can you propose in case of these exhausted teams?
Well, what I usually use, and again, it is very dependent, right? So I have different approach when it comes to startup, different approach when it comes to enterprise, and different approach when it comes to small company, different approach when I work in US, when I work in Norway, when I work in Saudi Arabia, right? So it's a little bit different depending again on the environment, but the actual mitigation measures right now is just to take the change a little bit slower, right? So maybe you should focus on the low-hanging fruit so you can show the result faster,
Yeah.
right? So that the leadership will see that there are some type of differences, but then lay low for a couple of months just to see how they people transform. When I say laying low, that does not mean you do nothing, right? No, you do assessment of the people, of the processes, where they want to introduce the AI, or if they don't know, right, what is your point of view? So depending on which role you are working in, right? When I work as a consultant, my work there is to find a way, what are the gaps and where, right, particular AI tools can be beneficial for them. And that's a learning curve. That's a learning process. You cannot do that in 1 month, even though leadership would want to, but it doesn't work like that. So that's
Yeah,
one
true.
good way to start.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that when you work as a consultant, you come with a different mindset, and of course, I would say even a different set of skills, because you need to think more like you are owning the business, right? You need to think from this financial and business perspective. And then what is your, let's say, recommendation or suggestion for people to get this kind of business acumen, or to enlarge their skills? Because we are not only talking about project management here. For a couple of years now, there is a lot of pressure on our position to kind of encapsulate more and more roles in our day-to-day work. So what is next for project managers to learn and to do?
It's a good question. So I was fortunate in my previous years to work in some companies which made me learn different stuff. So, for example, operational management, right? Operational excellence, frameworks, compliance frameworks, the risk management, very important, right? Especially in the enterprise environment, and depending on the enterprise, but majority of the enterprises right now are working through making decisions through the risk management process, right? And then in the same time, something that many people will argue with me about, probably, right? It's sales. So when we discuss value driven, how do you bring value to the company? You bring value to the company when you do sales on the back door. So you do the project, you're involved in the project. It doesn't have to be transformational project. It can be project to the customer, right? And then you make a relationship with the customer so you're able to sell more. You're able to sell support. You're able to sell additional services. You're able to sell yourself. You're able to sell different people from the group depending on which company do you work for, right? And that's the value that no one can say that you didn't bring, because the numbers are talking by themselves. So when I was positioning myself, right, how to move forward, right? My point was, first of all, I need to close the loop on the operational excellence. And operational excellence means project management, agile methodologies, Lean Six Sigma Kanban combination, right? Then we have risk management, very, very, very important. Then we work ITIL standardization, right? And then at the end, so there are a couple of more like business analysts, risk management perspective, and so forth. But then you always close up with the sales. Whenever you can do the sales, you will bring the best value. And this is what I've learned in my experience so far. I'm in this, I don't know, probably 25 years already. Maybe it's not much, but it's not to be neglected. So yeah, sales is something that is important.
Yeah. So in the end, going back to the profitability and actually generating money, right?
Exactly.
Because that's measurable, and that is always something that you can achieve and put in some presentation and show that, okay, I know we are running maybe out of time, so let's maybe get to another question. I saw something here. that this difference of approaches and strategies depending on geography, and probably this is meant also in the culture, right? But still, for the large organizations, decisions are based on strategy. Therefore, everybody across the world needs to implement the same similar. How do you approach the differences in this context?
Magda, I'm really sorry. Can you summarize once again? I didn't catch you on that one. Very shortly.
There is this question about the differences depending on different geography, and I think it's meant more into the culture and the needs of different geographical locations. Okay. And then still in the end, the decisions are based on a strategy, and maybe the question is how to make it how to make it similar across all the organizations.
How to make a similar across the
Okay,
markets.
we are different because of different context of the geographical, and now we have this challenge in Middle East, for example, but still in the end, what is something that can work in all the organizations, because the decisions are taken at the top. Yeah.
Right. So I can discuss about my approach, right? And my approach given by the experience. It doesn't mean that it will work everywhere, but usually I try to connect with people. Okay. So at the end, this is very important, because when you connect with people, you are learning about them, you're showing empathy, even in Saudi, where this is a little bit harder to do than in US, for example. So learning about people and understanding and showing empathy is the one thing that you are trying to learn, what are their actual problem. So you are able to resolve that problem. Maybe it's not a freaking AI. Maybe at that perspective is something else that we need to tackle, right? So for example, we are getting into the so-called process improvement piece, but we've learned that there is nothing here to improve. But the actual problem is they're lagging people, right? So they ask us, or they indirectly expect from us, right, as a team that we are collaborating with, is to show them and help them obtain more people, right? And we were not tasked with that. That's not in the contract, okay? But this is their problem. So we help to do that, and we assured like 12 months additional contract, okay? This is how it works. It doesn't matter where you are. To me, it's always connecting with the people to understand what the actual problem that you want to resolve. Otherwise, coming there with all of these fancy certificates, I know this and that, it doesn't matter, because for them, at the end, that won't solve the problem. Even though if you do some optimization in the processes, you won't solve the problem, because you are actually solving the symptom, right? So it doesn't work. To me, that's the key. First, you get in, you learn about people, you learn about the environment, and then you try to implement across with all the knowledge that you have, but in the same time, you're trying to accommodate to the culture.
Yeah. And I think this is very important to mention, that you start by resolving the actual problem that they have, and actually you guide them to find the problem, because majority of time they will not, even in depending whether you are a consultant or not, it doesn't matter, but majority of time there is not the why we do this, why we adopt this tool, why we do this project, right? The why behind it is not there connected. And I think for us as PMs, the more important thing is to connect the why, because when you find the why, then you understand also better the organization, and you can contribute a different layers in organization than just project management. One question I see, top management is pushing for AI adoption inside the company, but have you seen them using AI directly in any way?
Well, so it depends on the management. So right now I'm working, for example, with the startup, with the actual co-founders are the people who are VCs, previous VCs, CISOs, and they were providing the actual product itself using AI and strictly AI, and they are using AI everywhere. I mean, when I say everywhere, they have personal agents working for them, writing emails, sending emails, scheduling meetings. So I would say, from what I am seeing right now, advanced level of using AI. And now in the same time, I have additional work with additional people, right, from the other industry. They are still using Excel files to do MOMs, right? So that's the difference. Okay. So are they using it? I would say there are managers who are actually using that. So in my previous engagement, it's a huge enterprise in the US. And I would say, yes, even the top management were using AI and AI agents as their help right into the day-to-day operations. Of course, AI agents did not make decisions, right? But they are helping them in moving things around and moving the pieces together. So to that question, I would say yes, some of the management is using it. The others are not, depending on how they are open for the particular transformation or where they are in their state of life.
Yeah, I think it's important because it's one of these principles in any change management theory to lead by example, right? To preach and do what you're preaching. So then if you're not gonna use the tools, or if you're not gonna use the process that you want people to adopt, then you cannot expect people to just run and be very comfortable with your change. And I think this is also a part of the PM job, to connect these two perspectives of the change, from how leadership sees the change and the need for it versus how the people actually perceive the change, and they will continue to just adopt the change. And it is something of a very long discussion here, but I think we touched on those important points. Okay, any other topics, any other questions that you might have from the audience? Don't be shy, you can unmute yourself and get into discussion here with us.
Yeah, that's also a good point. And until they are thinking about one thing, Magda, that I wanted to stress out. So even if management or top management does not use the AI tools, that not automatically means that they do not support the initiatives. The point is that the top management, it's good to force, but in the same time need to enable people. And to enable people means to, at least in my perspective, means to give them time, opportunity to learn, right? So they do their best in implementation. So you cannot expect to send them on one Microsoft Copilot course, right, for essentials, or even using Copilot Studio, and then to come back and the same people to provide you with a different approach, how to implement AI Copilot Studio and program agents. Doesn't work like that, right? I've seen the same pattern when they did agile transformation, the same freaking pattern, same thing, right? And usually that does not work. So the management needs to enable and needs to understand, right, that this should take some time so that at the end we have the sustainability or sustainable product. We do not have gratitude just today.
Yeah, true. Important aspect of it. Okay, so I think there are no other questions, and we are approaching also the time limit. If there are other questions, I think people can connect with you also on LinkedIn, right? And you can continue the conversation there with Darko. And I would also encourage you and invite you for the other sessions in this week. We still have 4 evenings to go through, equally very interesting and very dedicated speakers, so don't miss them. The link is the same, it doesn't change, so you will connect to the other evenings using the same MS Teams link. And now, thank you, Darko, once again for your presentation and for the conversation. It was very insightful and very touching those points that are relevant, not only for AI, but for other transformations. Thank you once again. And thank you, everybody, for staying with us. And see you tomorrow evening.
Thank you all for having me. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a nice evening.
Care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
And so
Bye.
from
Bye.
PMI North
Thank you.
Macedonia Chapter.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.